All right. Good morning, everybody. You are watching Wake Up Call with Christina Previtt. My guest today is business and success coach Amira Alvarez. Thank you for joining me today, Amira.
So good
And
to be here.
thank you. It's awesome to interview you. I have interviewed you in the past, and here we are again. I think that was probably a year or so ago. So we'll just update things. And for the people who don't know you, can you tell me a little bit about what your business is? I just generally refer to you as a business and success coach, but I don't really think that that does it justice. So I'm going to let you explain what it is that you do.
Thank you. So really what I do is to achieve their goals and dreams, right? They tell me what you want and I'll help you get there. I'll help you do it in record time. And in the process of figuring out that methodology and how to really help people with that, I realized that fundamentally people want to achieve what they want to achieve because they want some feeling of, I'm going to call it personal freedom, a feeling of greatness, a feeling of worth. And so fundamentally, I help people get to be the person that they want to be and really not just like themselves, but love themselves through the act of achieving their big goals. And my business is called The Unstoppable Woman because the practice of doing this is to stay unstoppable and determined in the face of the challenges, because those are what drive us to grow and become more and really step into our full potential.
Now, wouldn't the people that come to you, though, would they probably be in a place in their lives where maybe they feel stuck, where they feel like I'm not getting what I want, there's something missing in my life, I know what I want, or maybe I don't know what I want, but I kind of need some help figuring out where do I go next?
Yeah, people come with a kind of I would say three levels of places. I don't know what I want, which is a very common thing for people initially when they're starting their personal growth journey. They don't feel like they have permission to really go after what they really want and own their desires. They might be successful in other parts of their lives, but those were someone else's desires or some other, they were driven from something by something else. And they need to learn how to really want what they really want and have the permission to do that. And then the second level person is someone who knows what she wants, but is doing kind of a circling at the same level or making what I call incremental progress, which is like it's enough to satiate you short term, but you really are standing in the same place year after year. You're not making that big shift forward. And then there's the third person who's had radical success in one area of their lives, but is looking to do it, doesn't know what they did to achieve it. So they are in fear that they'll never be able to do it again. They don't know the methodology, so they can't do it on a consistent basis. And they don't know how to apply. So the second part of that is they don't know how to take it from where they've been successful and apply it to the other parts of their lives. Like if they've been successful in business, can they be successful in their personal life? Can they be successful in their relationships, in their fitness, in their mental health, different impact goals, things like that.
And do you also give them tactical advice too? Like you're a coach, you've built a very successful coaching business, and I do want to get more into that. But if for people that are watching, if they're saying, well, I'm not sure that I would be a good fit for her because maybe I am not a coach, maybe I have some other kind of business, like I'm a lawyer, and you've helped me figure out sort of where I'm stuck, I attribute you helping me significantly figure out that I wanted to do a podcast, which has ultimately led to this. So I just want to be clear that you're not a therapist,
Nope.
but you don't just coach people how to coach. There's all different kinds of businesses and maybe someone who doesn't even have a business. Do you coach people that don't even have a business at all?
Yes. So I think there's a couple places to speak to there. One, only a handful of my clients are actually coaches. This isn't like a pyramid scheme around coaching by any means. I work with people in all sorts of industries, whether they're real estate agents or landscapers or architects or lawyers. I have lots of lawyers as clients. I have a lot of creative clients, people who are fine artists or writing novels or different things that they're going after. The commonality would be you have something inside of you that's saying, I am made for greatness, and I'm hitting that block. I know there's something I want to achieve, but I'm not doing it in the time frame that I want to do it in. Okay. And you have that drive, you have something inside of you calling you forward, and you're no longer willing to reject it. You're no longer willing to say, I'm not gonna follow that. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to achieve it. And so that's really important. Point number one. Point number two is no, they're not all in business. However, even the sort of, I have people who working corporate jobs or work for someone else, and what I've helped them do is, triple their income in 1 year based on this methodology, but within the corporate world. So there is a financial component to it, and there's a passion aspect to it, doing what they really want to be doing, but getting out of where they're stuck from acting on it. And then for the people who are in the arts, that's a really big place, whether you're a screenwriter, you're a director, a producer, you want to be a journalist, you want to create fine art. If you are someone who doesn't want to do it in a small way, but you want to do it in a big way, I'm your gal, right? Let's go big. Let's figure out how to take what you're doing, your genius, and execute on it.
Well, whenever I talk to people about coaching, sometimes I get people that are really interested and it lights them up. And then I get a segment of people that are like, I don't know. I don't really get what that is, and then they think about the money. Well, how much does that cost? And there's sort of this block around spending money on it, not being sure that they're going to see any kind of significant result. And then you get I can figure it out on my own. What do you say about that? I have my own opinions about it, but I want to hear what you think about that.
Well, I want to hear what you think about it too, but I'll tell you my opinions first, okay? So people have to be ready. So if you're talking to someone who isn't ready, they might need to be in the coaching world, like be listening to what I'm sharing and talking about for a while before they start putting together the dots, because it's not how we were raised. We were raised with the idea that, like, our education system says, do really well on the test and you'll succeed in life, right? Do really well on the test, go to a good college, get the degree, get the good job, and you'll succeed really well in life. And to some degree, that is true. It's not true, but there is a cap or a limit to that. And there are lots of people who don't do that path who get more success than the people who do play that path. So that cannot be the only piece to the puzzle. And for the person who is deeply embedded in that belief system, that's the way, and associated beliefs to that's the way to have success in life, they can't even hear that there's another way to have success in life. Like it can't come in. So they're not a good match for coaching initially. But if something in the conversation sparks them and they start listening and they start, I have a podcast, I have like a mindset club. There's like all sorts of ways for people to engage in a zero investment kind of way. And they'll start hearing things that start making sense to them. And then their readiness level goes up. And it's not to say don't have a DIY attitude from the perspective of, you got to do the work. Coaching is not me doing the work for you. Coaching is helping you get out of your own way so that you can do the work. So it's not DIY, but it's not doing the work yourself. And that was a real thing that I had to, like, my mind had to like go over, because I was really, quite frankly, committed to, like, I have to earn it on my own. I have to do it on my own. That's the only way I'm worth anything, is if I figure it out myself, right? Because that's how you had to study in school, right? You had to figure out it yourself. But the truth is that if you want to do it faster, the way you're doing it isn't working. So learn from someone who's done it differently, and then match it to your own work ethic and your own creative ideas. And that's rocket fuel. That's when it takes off.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And what I tell people when I have that dialogue is, first of all, whatever you're doing, if you're trying to figure out how to have a coaching business or whatever your business is, and you're trying to get it off the ground or get it to the next level, I always say, there are people that have done this already. Don't reinvent the wheel. Learn from someone who has done it. That's number one. Number two, it's so easy to see other people's shit. We can always see everyone else's problems so clearly, but really hard to see your own sometimes. And I think that's really where a coach is very helpful, because they will call you out on your bullshit. Not in a critical way, because sometimes when we hear criticism, we hear it exactly as that. It's criticism. We reject it. I know I'm guilty of that. I just want to immediately reject it. Like, they don't know what they're talking about. How dare they say that to me? But I think when it's a coach, you're paying this person to give you that constructive feedback, constructive criticism. I don't even want to call it criticism, and call you out on your bullshit. And I would like for you to speak a little bit more to that too.
Absolutely. So fear of criticism is one of the things that stops people dead in their tracks. Like, if you're not putting yourself out there and you want to have a podcast and reach lots of people, but you're afraid to do that, that's because of a fear of criticism or a fear of rejection, fear of judgment from other people. If you're not having the conversation with your partner about what you want to be doing in this world and how you want to invest in it and invest in yourself because you're afraid of what he or she is going to say, that's a fear of criticism. And it stops people in their tracks. It's one of the fundamental fears that really keeps people small. So, in order to step into coaching, there has to be a certain level of ability to receive feedback and not take it personally, not take it like a rejection of self. Okay, so you have to be at a certain level of awareness and experience and all of that. And that was challenging throughout my whole experience with coaching. When I first started hiring coaches way back when, I thought I knew everything. So I didn't always take what they told me in and act on it. I kind of was a little bit of a know-it-all. And it was only when I invested the price of a small mortgage on a house, right, for a year of coaching, that I got leverage over myself, over that know-it-all belief system, okay? Because quite frankly, I was doing okay. I was making six figures, but I was doing that thing where I was kind of hovering. I wasn't really stepping into my greatness. I wasn't really moving through the blocks. I would hit a block and kind of do this kind of circling thing and come up with all sorts of reasons why and excuses and alibis and stuff. But when I invested, I was like, okay, I'm going to listen. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as quickly as I possibly can. And I'm going to move towards the resistance instead of away from it. And it was scary as blankety blank and pushed me to my limits and beyond. But I went from 138 to 700K in 1 year and never looked back. Right?
And you can curse if you want to.
I swear like a sailor, but I don't know who's listening or where, but thank you.
I do too. Well, I do want to get into your story, and I did actually listen to your new podcast, the Unstoppable Woman podcast, and I'm looking for it on my Apple podcast list. I think it was your most recent episode. I don't know which one. I'd like to reference it here so when people listen to this, they can go back and find it. But you talked about your own personal experience, part one, and you talked about how you were married and you really were doing well with your business. You were increasing your revenue every year, but you weren't really where you wanted to be. You wanted to be bigger, more successful. You wanted that greatness. And you really wanted to invest in this coaching program that was very expensive. And you talked a lot about how you wanted to invest it, but your husband wasn't very supportive of it at that time because it was so expensive. And I really want you to talk more about that, because I think that's something that comes up for a lot of people if they're married, having their spouse on board. How do you justify spending all that money when you want to, but your spouse doesn't want you to? And there's so many things going on there.
Mhm.
But can you share your personal experience with that?
Absolutely. And I just looked as you were talking really quickly. It's how to, oops, I lost it. Oh, well.
I'll
When I,
find it while you're talking.
what I actually did to scale. Okay. I think is what it's called. Anyways, I can't speak and look at the same time. So that was a hugely pivotal moment in my life and my ability to actualize what I really wanted. And it was so important because it was the first time I really completely confronted that fear of rejection. Okay. That not just like that surface level fear of rejection, but like I am going to lose love and therefore I'm going to lose security and I won't be able to survive. Okay. Like on a very core fundamental level, that's what all of it brought up for me. And it was the first time I really confronted that and made a decision instead for what I truly wanted, not fearing what I could lose. And it taught me, I'll go back to that whole experience, but it taught me that I create my own security, okay? That I'm not dependent on someone else to create my security. And this is such a fundamental piece to personal freedom and having the life that you want is not creating a small trapped world where you are insecure because you are afraid of what other people are going to do and think. And it's nuanced because our lives are interrelated. We have relationships with people, and our growth, our more life comes through other people. Okay, and yet I had to choose my life first. Now that was really hard. That was not an easy decision. I did it crying, shaking, like my whole body was shaking on a cellular level. I was shaking. I was. Did I say I was in tears? I was in tears as I would say as I was signing the contract. Okay, like okay, it was terrifying to me, but it was also absolutely what I wanted to do, and I was claiming my desire. Now my
Was
husband.
it because of your husband that you were crying, or were you just like, oh my God, I'm spending so much money? Would you have been crying even if it wasn't for your husband?
No, I think yes and no. Uh, it was in part because I was facing those core beliefs and the relationship stuff with my then husband, and also because I was stepping into the truth of who I was and my power in such a quantum leap kind of way that my system could not handle it. There's something called the terror barrier, and it comes up when you have a conscious desire for something, but subconsciously, all your beliefs are saying, if you do that, you will die. And that conflict, right? That like oil and water kind of thing, apples and oranges, whatever you want to call it, gets activated. And if you are making a quick decision and taking immediate massive action, your system's going to feel this incredible dissonance. And that's part of why I was crying. Now, I want to circle back to one thing.
Uh-huh.
My husband was not happy about this for about 3 weeks. And uh, there was a lot of energetic stuff. I went into a lot of guilt and shame. I curled up in the fetal position. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was crying. There was not crying in the same way, but crying in a poor me kind of way. And then I knocked that shit out because I wanted what I wanted. And I ended up making a quantum leap in my income and actualizing on what I wanted. I did the work that I needed to do to get to the next level. And then my husband got it and started doing the things that I was doing, like started following the teachings and the methodology and what I was learning, and ended up being quite on board with it. So there's a bit of a happy ending to that, but it was, without a doubt, terrifying in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you feel like at that time that your husband was holding you back in some way?
Yeah.
And was there resentment? And I might just be projecting my own stuff on you. That's why I'm asking. Was there resentment? Like, why do I need your permission? Why can't I just do this?
Yeah. So the from the place that I am now, when I hear that, and I had the same thoughts, Christina, the rub is that you're being a victim and you're actually not taking personal responsibility because it's your life. Why are you giving your power over to your husband, your partner, your wife, whomever? Okay. Your kids, people tell me all the time, I can't do it because my kids, right? Like you're giving your power over to someone else, but that's your responsibility, not theirs. And I always talk about resentment being a clue, like something you can pay attention to as a sign that you aren't taking personal responsibility for your life. So yeah, I was totally that woman in that moment, or prior to that moment. But in that moment, I was like, I am doing this. And then there were small things that came up afterwards. Even as I was starting to make bank, and I was like, I want to redecorate the living room. Let's just buy all new furniture. No, we can't do that, right? Like we have to save our money. I'm like,
it's
no.
too expensive.
Right? And I would, it happens in a big way. There's like a massive tectonic shift, but then there's also these incremental shifts where you have to courageously move through them again and again. So like, I wanted to be in partnership, but how do you be in partnership and still own your desires? And so I had to navigate that. And inevitably it was around the house stuff that was like, I want to decorate the living room. I want new wall sconces. I want to spend money on new windows for our 1890s house, right? Like I wanted to just like make my life better. And I had already shifted my money consciousness, my money mindset, and understood that how to make money, what the methodology was to it. And I had internal security because of that, an internal confidence because of that. And he hadn't gone through that process. So he was still didn't have that same money consciousness. I'm going to call it poverty consciousness. And so we were at a little bit of odds there, but he did love the fact that I was bringing in lots of money and that we could spend it all.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's when the money was going out that there was a story around it, as we would say in coaching lingo. That's something that a lot of people who haven't, I called drunk the Kool-Aid yet, haven't had a real coaching experience. I think they're not actually aware of this money mindset thing. That's a thing, and that we all have a story around money. And I know that you have worked with that a lot. Can you talk more about that, especially for the people that don't even know what the heck we're talking about?
Yeah, so this is where double binds come in childhood conditioning, okay? So most of us were raised with some perspectives around money that don't actually support the creation of money. There's lots to be said on this. I'm going to just give you like some top level things, okay? So fundamentally, how are we raised? Did your parents say things like money doesn't grow on trees? It actually does. Did they say things like the cotton bush, guys? That's where dollar bills are made. Okay? Okay? Like it does. It's like it's created. Okay? It's a resource that keeps giving. Okay? It's not singular or it's going to run out or any of that. So we were raised with this idea that money was the root of all evil. Okay, where did that come from? And then what happens if you say, I want to make money. But money is the root of all evil. Those two things are in conflict. So you'll keep feeling this like bumping up against this internal glass ceiling where you're trying to do something more, but you think you're going to be a bad person if you do that. So why would you do that? Because you don't want to be a bad person. So then you don't do the things that are going to create money, and so on and so forth. And I really, one of the biggest shifts for me, and I teach this book now as part of our programs that we offer people. This in the Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Run, don't walk. Go get yourself a copy. In the first or second chapter, he talks about the right to be rich, and he lays out a whole perspective that was like, my brain went, holy smokes, really? And it was the real beginning of a real money consciousness, which I'm going to sum up for you here. Do you want me to do that? Or
Yes, I love this topic.
Okay, which is that our purpose in life is for more life, for growth, for expansion. And everything in nature is for expansion. And we're part of nature. If you look, everything is growing, okay, until the cycle of its life is done, and then it starts dying. Okay. So we're on earth to grow, to have more life. And what do you need for more life? Okay. Among other things, money is very key. It's not the only thing, guys. Don't make it seem like, oh, another one is like money can't buy happiness. Who the blankety blank really like is going to believe that that's the truth? Okay. Of course, money can't buy happiness. Okay.
Yeah.
But it can buy a whole lot of other things that you really like.
We're not talking about Louis Vuitton bags. I mean, if you want a Louis Vuitton bag, great, but we're talking more about a lifestyle and a quality of life, and to have and do the things that you want to do.
Here's the thing. Happiness is an inner game, okay? You can be super wealthy and miserable, and you can be super poor and happy. You can be super poor and miserable, and you can be super rich and happy. It's not related to money. Period. Full stop. Money buys things. If you want a Louis Vuitton bag, have at it. I'm not going to stop you. Okay. So this concept that we're here to grow, and we actually need money for our growth. Okay. To do and be and have the things in our life that are for more life. So let's say you have a big impact goal. You want to help 3 million kids learn how to read in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, I'm making something up. Okay?
Yeah.
You need the money to do that. There is without a question. You need the money to start your nonprofit. You need the money for the stamps, the envelopes, the emails, the marketing campaign, the staff to help you do it, to do the fundraising. All of that, yes, there's sweat equity that you can put in, but you are going to need access to resources. And if you don't own those resources or know how to call them in, then you're always going to be stopped from executing on your vision and your big purpose. Same thing in business, okay? It doesn't have to be a nonprofit. Same thing in the arts. You need the money to do the thing that you are put here on earth to do. If you don't have the money, you're always going to be saying, oh, I can't do that because, which is BS.
Yeah. Well, I see this manifest in a lot of ways, and you can tell me if I'm missing anything, because I think you probably see these a lot. I am more attuned to it now because I've had the benefit of coaching for several years now, and I've gotten into my money story and all that. But it's interesting when you identify it in someone else who maybe hasn't had coaching yet or hasn't addressed that issue. You see it so clearly in them. And where I see it a lot is undervaluing your services, practically giving away your valuable services for free, not charging enough, and feeling like it's wrong or dirty, or you're somehow taking advantage of people because you are expecting them to pay what you might think is a lot of money, because whatever, that's different. Your standard of a lot of money might be different than my standard, but in your mind, if it's a lot of money, let's just say you're charging $200 for something. Oh, that's so much money. But I might say, but that's worth so much more than that. You should be charging more. Someone else might say it's a ripoff. That's where I see it a lot. I also see it, and this is sort of related, where people, and I'll admit I used to have this problem when I'm a divorce lawyer, when someone would run out of their retainer. I hated having to call them and say, I sent you an invoice, you haven't paid it, I really need you to replenish your retainer. It was an uncomfortable conversation. That was part of my money story, asking for money for services. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there's so many different angles to approach this with, but the thing that comes to mind right now are two pieces. One is a self-worth piece, okay? So how you are, your self-image and how you're seeing yourself. And then the second piece is about service. So people see the exchange of money as I'm taking something from someone, I'm getting something, almost as if you're stealing or something.
Yeah, like you're tricking them. You're
Yeah.
tricking them into giving you money.
Right, like you're doing something bad. And this goes back to money is the root of all evil and all the stuff that we were raised with that doesn't make logical sense, okay? Because it's not the root of all evil. Like, take personal responsibility. If you do something dishonest or unethical, that's you, not money, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So part of it is this energy around getting. And so one of the things that I teach people around sales, because in whatever business or life you're in, you need to learn how to get to a yes with someone else. You have to be able to get to an agreement and courageously move forward, fearlessly move forward there to get to a yes. And this causes all sorts of places of, fear of rejection, all of this stuff. But if you approach it as, this is a service that I'm providing people. This is something, a value add, like without the BS associated with it. This is how I add value to the world. And this is a huge benefit. And I often coach people on like how to really see the benefits of what they're doing so that when they're in that place of requesting payment for service, then it's payment for service, okay?
Yes.
Okay, that they own their value in that moment. And quite frankly, this in the world of law, there are lawyers who charge a lot and there's lawyers that charge a little. And that has everything to do with their money consciousness and their sense of self-worth. And raising your self-worth is a big one, especially for women, huge.
Yeah, it really is. And I was talking to someone the other day because I have a client who has been in a marriage with someone where the husband has been kind of a bully and abusive, not in a physical way, but has asserted a lot of power and control over her and always made the decisions. But now that they're getting divorced, the dynamic is changing and he doesn't like that. And it's still a little hard for her to assert herself and say, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. So I was talking to someone about it and saying how frustrating it is for me as this like super type A woman to say, but no, why are you doing that? Why are you letting him make the decisions? And I said, I hate to say it, but I see this much more often with women. And it just upsets me so much. And he said, well, you know what? If women were able to assert themselves more, they would probably get paid more. There wouldn't be this huge wage gap and, so many other things that we could get into that are not part of this show. And I just want to know what you think about that.
Well, absolutely. I think women are by and large, as an aggregate, not individually, are taught to be demure and wait for things to come to them. And that's what polite is. That's what being a good girl is. That's what being, we're approved for that kind of behavior in a lot of ways. And we get some negative connotations around asking for what we desire. And then there's this flip side that happens that I see a lot where people go, okay, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to flip, and then it becomes kind of a belligerent.
Yeah.
And I'm not like calling assertiveness bitchiness. Okay. This is
Yeah.
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that internal feeling when you feel like you have to be at war instead of like, okay, I can internally know that I'm good while I'm asking for what I want. Okay. And getting to, again, this is all about getting to yes. Money, if you're thinking in terms of money, money comes from spirit, source, infinite intelligence, through people, through a sale. Now, a sale can be, a conversation with someone else. Okay. It doesn't have to be, and let me say this differently. Like money comes from spirit and source, but all things come from spirit and source. So if you want a fabulous relationship, this is one of the ways I translated the kind of methodology that I learned to the sort of unstoppable woman premise, which is let's do it in all parts of our lives. Okay. So if you want a lit up life and a great relationship with your partner, like fabulous sex, intimacy, all of that, right? You're in it together, then that's here and it's here now, okay? Because I have that desire, I know it's here now. It's going to come through people, through some sort of sale. We can use a different word for sale. We can call it a yes, okay? An agreement, okay? And you have to learn how to have those conversations and get to agreement or get to buy-in, no matter what you want. And from a law's perspective, I teach universal law a lot. From a law's perspective, if you're in a vibration of you're wrong and I have to fight you in order to get what I want, you're not going to get what you want because you're in a vibration of not getting what I want, okay? Of being at war. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. But if you find yourself in that situation with your spouse, with your employees, whoever, a friend, how do you first have to recognize that there's some sort of resistance there, right? And then what would be the next step of that?
So, and I think the step before the resistance, just recognizing the resistance, is really being aware of your feeling state. Okay, we know where we're at by how we're feeling. It's like our litmus test all the time. You know those great days where you're like in jam mode and everything's going well, and you know those days when you're in spin out mode, right? It feels
Yeah.
totally different. So let's say you're having some sort of issue with your team. You feel that. That's a vibration in your body. Okay. Someone else, or like if I just use myself, what used to trigger me with my team 6 years ago, it's not even on my friggin' radar right now. Like one, it's not happening anymore because we've grown so much. But two, that sort of stuff is just not anything that lands because I'm not vibrating at that level. Okay. So it does change. But let's say you're feeling something, then you have to recognize, so what am I reacting to? What am I triggered by here? And then it's really about taking personal responsibility in that moment for, we're all 100% responsible for our results. How did you create this right now? Was it that you just had a continuous thought that that person was going to fail you and fall down on the job? Were you constantly criticizing the person? Were you not clear in the directive that you gave? Do you need to have more team meetings? Did you give 5 people different instructions? Like, how did you create this? Okay.
Yeah.
And new meaning to the buck stops here, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the personal responsibility piece.
That's hard for people. I know that in the past I've put myself in that victim mentality and I didn't even know that I was doing it. So that can be hard to hear sometimes. I think personal responsibility can be hard to understand. I'm trying to think of a good example, but I think I still do it sometimes. Of course I do, where you might say, well, I can't believe so and so did that, and now I'm stuck with these results because so and so did that. Like, am I making sense?
Yeah, the thing that I would say to you there, Christina, is how does that make you feel? Like when you're doing that in that moment, that doesn't feel
Pissed. No, it feels awful. I feel mad.
Yeah, so that's the victim mentality. And that's the world happening to you. And then you get to be irritated and you get to stay getting the same results. That's how it plays out. And if you want different results, you get to shift to, okay, what could I have done differently? What do I need to say? Suddenly you're in control of your freaking life and you're a creator instead of a reactor. You're controlling and creating your life instead of being a victim of it. And it actually feels like once you get this and you do it on the regular, it actually feels like freeing. It's like, oh, yeah.
I have learned with coaching over the years to do that, to recognize better when I'm doing it, and which I do a little faster now. And then, and then acknowledging that, okay, this isn't real, like whatever the story is that I'm telling myself, it's not all true. And two questions, what did I do to contribute to this? Because I must have done something. And really trying to critically evaluate what that was so that I don't do it again. But also, okay, this is where we are now. What can I do to alleviate this problem now, moving forward? And I have to say, it's really made a big difference in my life in terms of the results that I get, but also in how I feel. I feel better. Not always in that place of, pissed off, like, oh, so-and-so did this, and now I'm, stuck with all these results that I don't want. So I think that's been really valuable. But it takes practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's a lifetime of habit and, quite frankly, how the majority of the world functions. And so you have to really want it badly enough, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to talk about the blind spots. Can you talk about what that is? What is a blind spot?
Yeah, so a blind spot, really important to understand. It is something in your thinking, in your belief system, okay, which resides in your subconscious. So it's part of your programming, okay, the automatic programming that runs the show that you cannot see. By definition, you are blind to it. Okay, you are living your life and you can't see it. Okay, all you can see is that you're getting these kinds of results, but you don't know why. If you consciously want something else, you keep creating these results and you can't see it for yourself. And this is part of the trap. And it's why you have to work with someone, at least initially, who is much further along and has the capacity to really spot that in you, and quite frankly, is a truth teller and is willing to tell it like it is. My clients call me direct and compassionate. Like there's love there, but I'm going to be super. Once I see what's the double bind, what's stopping you, what's the belief that is keeping you from like actually executing on your big goals and dreams and like living to your potential and greatness, I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you. That is my job in this world. Okay?
So as an example, like you might have to talk about someone's money story. You might say you're not charging enough for your services, or you're not making sales calls. Just some examples that I can think of. Are those some of the things you would have to talk about with the person?
Yes, but those are like the sales calls or not charging enough. Those are results. Those aren't blind spots. Okay. So you're pretty much able to see that, oh, she told me to make sales calls and I'm not doing it. Okay. Like you can see that. That's a result. Okay. And although those are really, actions are super critical, what's actually keeping you from making that sales call? Okay.
So that's the blind spot.
That's the blind spot.
Can you can you give a few examples of some ones that you see recurring in people?
Well, the one that just pops into my head, I'm not sure if it's a recurring one, but it's always around people stuff. Like I can't win. If I win, they lose. If they win, I lose. So that it becomes a conflict, okay? And then, which means that, like, if your team can't win, if you think someone else can't win because you'll lose, you won't set your team up for success, okay? They'll lose, okay? You'll lose if they win, and vice versa. If you win, they have to lose somehow. And so
we can all win. We can all win.
Yes, we can all win. Absolutely.
Everyone can be successful. What comes to mind when you say that is a lot of times, at least in my community, lawyers are sometimes reluctant to talk about, what they do for marketing, or, how they charge their retainers and things like that. Because it's almost like, well, I don't want to tell you because you might start doing what I do and you might be more successful than me. And I always want to say, but we can both be successful at the same time.
Right.
I don't have to be successful at your expense.
Yeah. This is, again, classic, like, do we live in a competitive world or a creative world? Is the universe expanding, or is it shrinking, or there's a limitation? Is there abundance or scarcity? This is like the perspective on life. I thought of another one that I wanted to share.
Oh, yeah.
This was one that I recognized recently in myself through coaching, where it was clear that this was something to do with team that came up, and I had to be the smartest one in the room. That doesn't work. Okay, this is a great one for lawyers, right? Because that's
right?
Because you're the smartest one. If you have to be the smartest one in the room, your team can't run with it, can't excel. Okay? They always have to be failing in order for you to be seen as the smartest one in the room.
Yeah, they have to be wrong so you can be right.
Yeah, completely. And that's the classic overriding one. Okay, people being taught in a right-wrong paradigm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, that I see a lot. I probably got to think about that. Might see that myself a bit. You always meet somebody, especially in law, where they will fight to the death, and it could be about something really small, like some strange trivia fact that they will argue with you about. And they will start going on the internet and finding evidence to prove their point that they're right. I mean, after a while, I just give up. I'm like, okay, you're right. But is that a blind spot? That would be an example of a blind spot?
Blind spot. And that person is probably doing it to feel better in this world, or to feel like they're probably doing it because they want love, they want connection, they want to feel worthy. And yet what's happening when they do that is that they're pushing people away, and it's giving them the exact opposite of what they truly desire, which is sad, right?
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to your story a little bit. I want to go back to when you hired your coach and ask you a personal question. So how much was the coaching? Can you share that?
First, I did a 20K VIP day, and then I signed up for 100K annual coaching.
So that is a lot. So people who haven't done coaching and haven't spent money like that on themselves are probably reeling, like they might have just fallen off their chair. Like, what? $100,000? How did you
pause there, right?
Yeah.
I invested that, and I made 700K that year. At 5 times my income. Okay. Was that, and I'd done it 3 years in a row. Okay. And both spending the money and quantum leaping my income, right? Is that investment that was worth it? Abso-fucking-lutely. Not only did I learn how to make money, like, you could drop me from an airplane into the desert and I would know how to make money. I would know how to run a business, all that. Might not know how to find water, but I know how to make but beyond that, Christina, because I went on this journey and I stepped in and I said yes to myself and I went for it, I have learned what it takes to have personal freedom. People tell me all the time when I ask them, underneath what you're telling me that you want, what is it that you really want? Like, what would that mean? And you get to joy, peace, happiness, and freedom. It's like they don't want to feel that anxiety and worry, and they don't even know where it's coming from. And it's like perpetually there. I don't have that anymore. And it's freaking like, I have bigger goals, I have challenges, there are things in my business that I'm constantly attending to and engaging in and all of that. But I am no longer afraid. That is freaking priceless.
And you attribute that to the coaching that you got?
So it's a two-parter, and I tell this to all my clients who want to work with me. Okay, I attribute it to the coaching, and I attribute it to taking action. Coaching is not a friggin' magic bullet. That's what I tell my clients. I will coach my ass off for you. I will slay for you. You will have absolutely the most master level support to break through your blind spots, without a doubt. Like, I go full in, okay, full on. But you have to do the work. I am not you. I am not the artist. I am not the producer. I'm not the director. I'm not the business owner, the empire builder, whatever it is. You are that woman, and you have to take personal responsibility for your actions. Now, I'll help you keep moving so that you're not blocked, but I'm not going to do the work for you.
Yeah. I think that's a big one. It kind of reminds me of the fitness world where somebody, wants to lose 30 pounds and they're going to go find this awesome fitness instructor or personal trainer. But they don't realize sometimes, well, you have to show up, you have to do the exercise. And then when you're not with your trainer, you have to make sure that you're eating what you're supposed to eat. It's, not just going to get this master trainer that is going to, touch you with a magic wand and change your body. And I have learned this myself through coaching, that it's true. You have to do the work. You can hear what the coach is saying, but there are things you actually have to do. And I've heard in coaching circles this idea that you can act your way into thinking different, or can you think yourself into acting different? Which one is it?
Well, it's both. Okay. And this is the brilliant part. And I have a hard stop in a few minutes.
Yes.
So there's two ways to change your outcomes. You change your actions, or you change your beliefs. And you actually have to do both. Okay. So the way I work with my clients is I help them break through that blind spot and then take massive immediate action towards what they want. And when they do that, they live to tell about it, they get a result, and they're no longer the same person who can't do that thing anymore. Okay. Now we do that repetitively over and over and over again, courageously moving forward. Okay. Then you become the person for which that's easy. That's now a new habit. You have a new belief system. You've acted your way into supporting that new belief system after we've changed the blind spot. Now, there's another way of doing it, which is something that I teach in my Spirit of Wealth Mastermind, and all my private clients get the instruction on this, is how to send a new directive to your subconscious. So you change your beliefs on a regular basis, because your beliefs drive what actions you will take. So you have to keep that constant spaced repetition and input of the new thought to create the new action. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. There's so much more we could talk about, Amira, but I want to respect your time. You have to go coach someone into greatness. And thank you for coming on and sharing this information. I want to encourage everyone to listen to the Unstoppable Woman podcast, which I know you can find on Apple Podcasts. But let us know if somebody is interested in learning more about you or coaching with you, how can they find you?
Thank you. So I would go to the unstoppablewoman.com. And then if you want all the free resources, we have a free resource page that's at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you'll find links to the podcast there, and you'll find links to our Morning Mindset Club and lots of other free business building resources. So please take advantage of that.
Great. And I'll post those links in the comments. So thank you for watching, and thank you, Amira. I'd love to have you on again one day.
I'd love it. This was awesome. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.